Oh, Nikki, you're so fun. You're so fun. You're so
Start
fun,
it.
Nikki. I mean, you got to.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
Okay, so Nikki.
Yeah.
Oh, Nikki, you're so
Have you
fun.
ever met
You're so-
Nikki? Have you ever met her?
Let her finish.
What?
Just kidding.
What?
I'm kidding.
I really want to hear the song.
Let's do it.
Everybody together.
I don't. Okay.
Oh, Nikki, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Nikki.
I can't stop.
Hey, Nikki. By the way, that song is actually Hey, Mickey.
Yeah, it's a Mickey. Yes.
Mickey.
But it's still great.
It works.
It's
I
still
can't.
great.
It works.
I
great.
still hope she's heard that her whole life, though.
Yeah.
I wonder if she has. Her name is Nicole. She just goes by Nikki.
Okay.
But
That intimidated me
Mickey.
so much when y'all threw in the clap.
I'm just glad we synced up.
I know.
It was some bold confidence.
I'm just glad the words were appropriate. None of us were saying like, you know,
You know.
blow my mind.
We're so funny.
So yeah, she won the Cupcake Wars.
Yes.
That's so cool.
I know.
Like, I genuinely love watching shows like that.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many talented people doing cool things out in the world.
Yeah.
And to think that one of them's here, that's so neat.
I know. I mean, and to even have the balls to go compete in something
Sure,
like that.
yeah.
Like, you have to know that what you do is great.
Sure.
And yeah, so she owns Scratch Made Bakery here in town. And they also have I don't know what it's called anymore. It used to be the Chase building. Now I think it's First Bank Southwest.
So did she buy that from somebody? Because I remember that coffee house
coffee shop?
inside the bank.
I don't think she bought it. It was,
Okay.
I
It
mean,
was already there.
there was a coffee shop there, yeah,
Yeah.
and then it closed, and then they just opened up their business.
Nice.
The Roast and
Okay.
Toast, yeah.
Awesome. I'm
Roasted
pretty sure it was
toast.
Cliff.
Roast and Toast.
I think it was Cliffside
It-
that started there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they've only owned that coffee shop for like 2 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
But Scratch Made has been here since like 2015 or so.
Yeah. I love that place. Well, actually, Willem had her first birthday party
That's
there.
fun.
I kind of remember that.
Ask her
Yeah.
if she remembers.
I wonder. I wonder if she does.
And they used to do, her and Mackenzie, the other owner, they used to do brunch every Saturday. And then they also had Brunken, which was on Saturday and Sunday nights,
Smart.
where if you were just out late after a bar downtown, you could go there and eat. And they had bottomless mimosas.
I never
Goodness.
knew about that one.
I know.
would have been there. all
I'm
the
pretty upset that that's not a thing.
I know. She's going to have to bring that back.
It was too much. It was
Yeah.
just way too
Sure.
much to keep up with all those different things.
Drunk people
So-
kind of suck, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, ask her. For real. So yeah, she's so cool. Coolest girl ever.
Does she
She's-
play music, or
No.
do I just dream that about
She does
her?
not.
Okay.
She has a lot of tattoos. Do y'all know who her husband is? Okay.
A legend, I hear.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he just looks familiar, and I know I've seen him 1,000 times. He's almost like a Jeremy Knowles type guy.
Okay.
Like, you see him and you know you've seen him, and so whenever you see him again, you're like, oh, I kind of know this guy, don't I? And then you're like, oh, that's your husband. Okay, cool. But
Yeah.
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 And apparently they've just like ran in the same circles for a long time, and 4-ish years ago, 3-ish years ago, started dating. And
And he's a local bartender.
yes, so he's a bartender, and he also does, we could ask her
Okay.
since she
Speaking
knows.
of Jeremy Knowles, I went to high school with him, and he was the most GQ boy.
Hello.
What?
Yes. He wore, all I remember, like if I could put an outfit on him right now, it would be like a baby blue polo with his clean bleach blonde hair. I know. You're welcome, Jeremy.
Oh my God. What?
That's amazing.
But he had the coolest car. I remember that.
What was it?
Man, I think it was a Charger or a Challenger maybe. I don't know. I can't remember because he ran in a group of guys who did have cool cars.
Yeah,
So they
gotcha.
kind of all
All
blend
blended
together.
together, yeah.
But definitely vintage. And
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was,
okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so
true
funny.
vintage. Did you know we're vintage?
Oh my gosh.
Because of our age.
So funny enough, the first time we all got together and talked about things, I mentioned Shelby Stevens.
Oh yeah.
And
He was kind of that dude.
just to bring it back,
Yeah.
he was definitely like the cute guy at school. But I
Swoon.
recently, as of like 2 years ago, I was in a market as a vendor at a market at Pete's Greenhouse, and had the honor of being next to Paradise Vintage with Courtney, and she has, as in the name, vintage clothing.
Right.
And I bought a sweater that I swear belonged to Shelby Stevens.
What did it look like?
It was like from back in the day when, like, what was it? Delia,
man,
the
I don't
magazine
know.
catalog thing. Anyway, it was like different tones of green and blue stripes, and it was probably from like PacSun in the
Yeah,
mall or something
yeah,
like that.
that's funny.
But I bought it. It didn't fit or anything. I
Yeah.
just bought it because I'm a
nostalgia?
hoarder. Yeah, and I just liked the idea that like this looks just like Shelby Stevens.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that
Have you
funny?
looked him up now recently?
I haven't. It's been a while,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
hope you're out there. Hope you're great. I got your sweater.
Hope you have your hair.
I got your sweater. Yeah.
This is my friend Nikki,
Hey.
who is the owner or co-owner, of Scratch Made Bakery
And roast and toast.
and Roast and
Yeah,
Toast.
yeah.
Love
Yes.
that. I just found that out.
So, Scratch Made is a local bakery that's been around since, I guessed a year, and I want to know if I'm right.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I guess 2015.
I was about to say our shirts say established 2015.
God, I
Yeah.
cannot believe.
Yeah.
Jamie's
it had
so
to be
Yeah.
good at life.
etched in my
Way to go.
subconscious
Way to go.
somewhere.
Yeah.
It had to be.
Yeah. So Mackenzie and I have been partnered since then. Yeah,
Okay.
that's when we partnered, was 2015.
Okay.
And I had a bake shop 2 years prior to that. So 13. I guess that's how long.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
more than a decade. That's,
Which, okay, before I forget.
yeah.
So Jamie is very impressed with herself as far as dates go.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, like she's
We
really
all have a secret thing.
She's
Yeah.
really good at
Yeah.
guessing dates.
Yeah.
What is something that impresses you about yourself?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a really good question. I tend to be a glass half full, and by that I mean my glass is always full. That being said, that's not to say that I'm not impervious to hard times or things haven't affected me in the past or bothered me very much, but I'd like to think that when I go out of this world and someone's up there talking about me and I'm laying in a box, they'll say that was one hard-working,
Yeah.
their swear words.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's one
absolutely.
hard-working motherfucker.
Yeah.
And she worked really hard to get where she was going,
Yeah.
and she loved greatly.
I would
I love
agree.
that.
So
I
that's
would
what I want.
agree that people would say that about you.
I'm hardworking.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. It's almost a superpower.
So
I
this
see
was
what
one
I
of the
can get done.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
What drives you?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? Was anyone in your family like that? Did you inherit that?
One is this great. I'm fairly driven to not starve to death.
Yeah.
Because if you don't
Okay.
work and you don't make money, and there's no magic pot of gold for me at the end of the rainbow. There's no inheritance. There's no
Yeah.
trust. There's no security, I guess, in that way. And so what drives me is the hopes that I will get where I'm going. Now, where I'm going changes from time to time as life progresses and things evolve and things play out. I think that it's really difficult to set a finite pinpoint on where that end goal is, but that's where I'm going. And so I think that's what drives me, is that overall goal to just achieve.
Yes.
Yeah. Because success
Love
is so
it.
different it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it can just be literally getting out of bed in the morning. And for some
just talked
people,
about
it
this,
can
yeah.
be going home alone. And sometimes it can be eating a meal in a restaurant by yourself. And so that definition of success is fluid. And I'd like to think that I'm constantly working towards it. So that's what
Yeah.
drives me to
Yeah.
be
I love
successful.
That. So good. So you've opened your coffee house. You have your bakery. You just enjoying that, or do you have more plans?
You know, I'm very much a team. It's Mackenzie and I both. And I think that when we first partnered, the original goal was to be able to achieve more, do more, be more with 2 people. I mean, you're talking about 2 co-owners. Imagine, you own one thing, and that's very hard. And you guys both know that, and you both see that, and you've worked with that, and you work for that. And so I think that also changes as well.
Yeah.
While we were opening Roast and Toast, Mackenzie worked on that very hard while I was working on wholesale accounts with Palace at the time. And so we very much have that like divide and conquer type personality. And I think that we complement each other very well with that. So we met through mutual friends.
Okay. How long ago?
I guess 11 years ago or so. Her and her cousin had actually come into the bakery, and they had gotten a couple little treats here and there. And then we met through mutual friends, and we really just sort of hit it off. And to find out that she was baking from home, which is where I got my start in North Carolina, was baking from home and selling at a farmer's market. So I have a soft spot for small business, and I have a soft spot for heavily driven women that are bound and determined to just make what they're going to do happen, even if they have to do it out of their tiny little kitchens.
Yeah.
And so she and I just immediately clicked, and it was like, oh shit, I met someone that also works just as, she's the only person I've ever met that works as hard.
Nice.
And not to like toot my own horn again, but it goes back to what are the things that drive you? Hard work and determination. She also very much has that. And so I respect that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I imagine having a co-owner or partner, whatever, that is just as driven, you feed off of that.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I'm going to be very honest in saying that before she and I partnered, I had very much made the decision that I was no longer going to do that again. I was living in North Carolina at the time that I started my business, and then I had great success, and then we ended up moving here because my ex-husband was selected to go recruiting duty. And so at that point, I was ready to take my career to the next step. I had just won that episode of Cupcake Wars and had this golden coin in my pocket that I knew exactly where I wanted to put it, and I could no longer put it where it needed to be put. And so I still had that like restless energy of wanting to take the next step and not feeling like I should, and yet being like, I don't care, or the chips fall where they may. And so that's how it happened for me. And I was miserable, to be perfectly honest. It was very difficult, and it was very lonely. And I mean, at the time I was going through a divorce and trying to schedule, like joint visit, like having the kids and running a business. And I mean, I remember just waking up in the morning and just not knowing what the next step was, and that was something new for me. Because at that time I knew exactly where I was headed, and the universe just doesn't play out that way. And so when Mackenzie and I had that conversation, because at that point we had become friends, and she just said, don't, I'm going to quit my job and I will partner with you.
That's
and we'll
awesome.
fucking do this. And
Jamie, can you quit your job and partner with me?
oh my God. Would we be as successful?
No. She was my lifeline, man. And
Yeah.
for that, I'll be forever grateful that, it's not just me that I'm working for either. Like we both very much work for one another. I think it's that mutual respect that really keeps us going, because there's a lot of terrible stories about people and their business partners.
Yeah.
In fact, you don't hear positive stories about it. It's like, oh, so-and-so screwed so-and-so over and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that our relationship is perfect, obviously, because we're human beings, but it's pretty fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Like I
That's
truly
amazing.
enjoy when she walks in the door. We're past best. I mean, she's my closest confidant, and we share everything, and we still laugh together, and we still joke together, and it's like an old married couple that still loves each other.
Right.
I love
You know?
it. Yeah.
That's amazing
so
to
it's
find
good.
someone like that.
Yeah.
Especially at our age in life, or like, when you did, and being in the position that you were in, and then this person just kind of comes out of nowhere and is like your person, and you're like, whoa, that's
It was wild. I had never.
Yeah.
I don't know if you power of manifestation and power of intention and all of that. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah.
Wah-wah or whatever.
I think
wabble.
Yeah.
I very much subscribe to the,
Right.
if you're willing to go get it, you can have it.
Yeah. I love that.
And so that's.
I'm all about manifesting.
Me too, girl.
This place is
Yeah.
a manifestation.
See,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I
Thank you.
didn't realize that I was all about it, but I am. I remember when Gavin was probably 6, he was at Woodlands. Like we lived in some apartments over in that area. At that time, I was living on HUD, food stamps. I was going to school full time, like working part time. You and I had just met and became friends. Like, I just did not have a lot going for me, although I was trying really hard.
Sure.
But I distinctly remember driving around the neighborhood that I live in now and telling Gavin, we're going to live here one day.
And you have a nice neighborhood.
And we live there.
Yes.
Yeah. I
so
love that. I
good.
love that so much.
It's biblical.
It is.
says you're-
It's hard to see the forest for the trees sometimes, truly. Like, I get really caught up in the fine details, and I think that
The small stuff, yeah.
the small stuff. And so that is something that's, I'm not going to say held me back in life, because I don't feel like I've been held back.
Yeah.
But those are the things that I would find distracting.
Yes.
There we go.
It's
Those
important to
distractions.
look at the bigger picture for sure. Yeah. And it's,
So,
yeah.
Do you like Amarillo? Or
I love
you-
Amarillo.
Yeah? Okay.
I grew up in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And so when we were in North Carolina and I was there for 10 years, my ex-husband, who was a Marine at the time, was selected to go recruiting duty. When you select to go recruiting duty, you get to choose where you go. You're given like 3 or 4 choices. The odds of you actually getting to go to the places that you've chosen are
Right.
like slim to none.
Yeah.
And so we chose New England so that we could be closer to his family, and we chose Fort Worth so that I could be closer to my family. And I think we chose maybe Pensacola at the time. My mom lived there at that point. Anyways, Amarillo is where they put us. And
That's
so
crazy.
Yeah, Amarillo. And so at that time I was like, okay, cool. Like, I could still make that 5.5 hour drive,
Yeah.
see my family on
Yeah.
a weekend. But when we moved out here, I cried myself to sleep every single night for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember driving downtown because my goal, again, I'm very steadfast. I had my quote unquote very minute amount of success that was just enough to wet my whistle to make me feel like the dream that I had was actually achievable. And then I had to do it in a completely fucking different state with people that I didn't know,
Yeah.
with a customer
Yeah.
base that didn't know who I was.
Right.
And so at that point, I was still blogging a little bit, which I do like to write, love it. I'm not a blogger. It's not for me. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not
We did that for a
consistent
minute.
enough. Yeah. It's super cool. And I have
Yeah.
a friend who's had really
Forget
wonderful
about
success with it. But it's just not for me. That being
Yeah.
said, I met a couple of folks through that, and then I met Joe Bob McCart whenever I started looking for spaces.
Oh, yeah?
And he's the one who found that spot for me downtown. But I was devastated because it wasn't. It was the first place that I had ever been and ever visited, ever lived that didn't have like a central hub. And Amarillo still doesn't have that central
Right.
hub. Like
Yeah.
you don't, you know.
That's
it's
what I was going to
changed,
say.
but-
I'll tell you, first of all, to have a successfully locally owned business in Amarillo that sticks around for many years is
It's damn
difficult.
hard.
Like, difficult is an understatement.
Yeah.
2, to have one downtown, that's even more of a uphill battle. And so for you to have this business that's lasted this long and been this successful, and coming from
We've again, success is a word that
Subjective.
means something different to every
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
We've been able to keep our doors open, and we've both managed to take a paycheck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we'll keep doing it until we can't do it anymore. And I think that's it, is she and I are both very steadfast. Now, watching Amarillo go from what it was, homeless people and foxes and vagrants, and to what it is now, I'm blown away. Like, especially with the influence of the bar field, and then the
Yeah.
new buildings with Six Car and with Crush. And now, mind you, a lot of places have come and gone, which
Yeah.
kind of bums me out a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
But,
Like,
yeah, I
Scratch Made
agree
has
with
been,
you.
it's like another Ohms
We've
almost.
looked for other places. I mean, we have for sure. Is there going to be some, maybe a different side of town would be better for us, truly. Like, I know where the money goes. I know where people go.
Yeah.
But it's, I
Yeah.
don't know, it just feels false.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel as organic as it does being in our little space downtown. And
Right.
Yeah.
we love
Have
it.
you thought of how Golden Light has the Golden Light on
Sure.
Hillside, Golden Light 2 or whatever it is?
Sure.
Have you thought of doing something like that?
We have. And then it just goes back to who's going to fund that, and
Right.
how far do we want to bury ourselves, you know?
Right.
And not to say that we don't believe in ourselves, but I think with
hard work.
it is hard work.
Yeah.
With the addition of the coffee shop, we were able to stretch in that way, and I think
Yeah.
that maybe I don't know.
You were able to
fix that for
scratch
us.
that itch for a minute. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good.
So,
Yes, girl.
I'm fascinated by you. Not only because, and this is something else I was talking about that you might be interested to hear, because I'm going to talk about me for a second.
Yes, girl.
No, I was saying, we were talking about strong women and how they're like, in overall, I guess in general, they're just, lots of people are intimidated by passionate, strong women. And I was saying that I crave that type of person in my life.
Sure.
So Alexis is one, Perry is one, Erica's one, you're one. Like I live off of stuff like that.
Okay.
A lot of people find it intimidating, but yes. So I guess really all I was going to say is you're one of my passionate friends who I adore.
So I recently got married, right?
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Newly married. He's wonderful. He's great. He's
Okay.
perfect. He's
Yes.
the perfect man ever.
Okay.
He's handsome and he's wonderful and he's caring and he's smart and he's all the things.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a very independent woman as well. Like, it's really difficult to reach out and ask for help. I'm getting better at that as I age, understanding that if someone offers their help, you also have to give them the opportunity to help, because that's how the universe works. It's a give and take, and that it doesn't have to be taken so personally. It doesn't mean that they think that you're weak. It legitimately means that they want to help because they love you.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to
Or they
to
love what
process.
you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they just legitimately want to lend that helping hand that now doesn't feel like a handout, now feels like a legitimate, it's a effort in gratitude. We actually ended up getting married in Fort Worth because I wanted my grandmother to witness, and she's 94 and she can't make the trip out to Amarillo in that way. And so it was really important. And we got married at a little park, and there was approximately 12 of us there. My best friend married us, and my very, very immediate family was there. And so when I got back to town, Mackenzie's mom had said, "Oh my God, did you know that Niki got married?" And Mackenzie's like, "Yes, I knew that Niki got married." And she said, "Well, does she want to do like a party or anything?" And so her mom was just so insistent upon, and mind you, when I say that this is a woman that is like a party planning, like I've never seen someone so good at it. I mean, she hosts a derby party every year. Anyways, for her to be like, I want to be involved in this and play a role and do this, I was just over the moon. And so fast forward a month, because that's how long it took to plan this. And by that, I mean, I now understand when people say it's a very difficult thing to do. I kind of ate shit a little bit. I'm in the bakery space, and we have our little space rental. Mm-hmm. And so I've cleared it out. We've cleared it out, and it was very much a team effort. Anyways, fast forward to them actually setting up table and the space for what it's supposed to look like for the reception itself. I just looked around. Every single woman in my life is a top. I do not have a singular bottom. They're all tops. Everybody's in charge. Everybody's doing it. And I look at Wendy, who I would call my mom, and she's, if I were to have an adopted mother, that would be her. She's a dream. And she just looked at me and she said, "Well, it's because you're a strong, independent woman." And I just looked at her, and I had never in my life thought of myself that way. And I mean that legitimately.
Wow.
Everything came full circle in that moment where she just said, like, your loved ones are going to reflect you, and this is you. And
I love
I've
that.
always just seen myself again as hardworking and driven, but not necessarily like a strong, independent woman.
Right.
Yeah.
And so here I sit in this newly found seat that I'm trying to get comfortable in, where it's, I'm okay saying that. Like,
Yeah.
I am a strong, independent woman.
I love it.
That's so, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel you.
I love it.
It's all tops.
Yeah.
All tops.
That's so great.
Yeah. It's good.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the people that I love to surround myself with are also of the creative gene. Like, I feel like if you have any sort of creative bone in your body, not me included, but if you have any sort of creative bone in your body and you want to allow that muscle to grow and develop and all that kind of stuff, you're willing to let it happen, you inherently become strong and independent.
I would agree with that. Your tribe is important,
Yeah.
because your tribe can either tear you up, break you down, or build you up and lead you on a wonderfully successful path.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that you surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Manifestation, power of intention. Yeah, your tribe needs to.
Yeah.
That was one of the saddest days of my life when you stopped working at State Farm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
Aw.
I mean, even the fact that you just brought up the blog, And then she goes and works with Perry.
Yeah.
And I'm still sitting at the State Farm office.
And
I was
she's
jealous
actually the
about
one who
that.
told me about the job for Perry.
Yeah.
Which is
Okay.
even more crazy. Yeah.
Didn't
And
know
so
that.
Perry was needing an assistant or something, and I was needing a job. And Alexis was like, Michelle's friend needs a job. You should try her out. And she had just moved into the Bowery. I went, and that was also like one of those meetings where I think we both kind of knew subconsciously, like, this is it. This is going to
Yeah.
work somehow.
That's awesome.
And we've
Yeah.
become like family. So,
And here you are doing her daughter's wedding.
and here I am doing her daughter's wedding.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, but
What an event.
I know. Yeah. So,
What's your favorite event to host?
We rent out that space for a variety of, birthdays, showers, things like that. But I love kids' parties. I used to, when my kids were younger and I was constantly surrounded by kids, I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. I love my kids. They're the best
Yeah,
thing I've ever done in
right.
my entire life. But I was not the mom to be like, let's have sleepovers and let's do
Me neither.
that. I just,
Same.
but
Me
now when they have the birthday parties at the shop, I get to watch these kids run around, and it's almost like getting to step back into the past.
Yes.
Aw,
And
yeah.
reappreciate something
Yes.
that I saw differently then.
Yeah.
Now
My
I'm just
daughter
like,
had
"Oh,
her first birthday party there.
Oh my God! What?
Yeah,
Oh my God!
Yep.
and she's 11 now.
Yep.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Well, I'm glad.
Yeah, I loved that.
I like the kids' parties. It's sweet and it's cute and it's pure and it's innocent. And they're all
Yes.
having just the best time of their lives
Yeah.
with a
That's
balloon.
so sweet.
yeah.
You know, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Jordan
So
would
I
have
like
a
that.
panic attack if I had kids stuff here. He's like, "What if they touch that?" But
Oh yeah. And we've talked about that too. It's like, oh my God, do we even want to do this? And
Yeah.
I'm like, who cares?
I was going to ask, how do you not eat everything? This was a question Alexis was going to ask.
So, my relationship with food has changed over the years. I'm an all or nothing kind of gal. So I'm either all sugar or no sugar.
Yeah.
And right now we're sort of settling into a really trying to find that happy medium to where I'm not only living off of sugar. So that's kind of where I'm at. It
Yeah.
just depends on what month or what year we're at. But right now we're in, thick girl summer. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
There's
I'm all about
thick
it.
is in.
Yeah. Thick is in, yeah.
Crop tops are in. Camel toes are in. Short shorts
Yeah.
are in.
No need
and
to hide.
I am
Hey.
here for it. I love it.
Speaking of thick, I'm sweating right now.
Yeah,
so,
girl.
Yep. Okay. I did ask Nikki this the other day, and I want you to repeat the answer if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just because I was curious, and I had never asked her this before, but her favorite type of cake. Like, what's her favorite? Because, I feel like a baker would have some badass,
Yeah.
and you did have a pretty badass answer.
I don't even remember it. Cream puff, maybe?
No.
I like a cream puff.
Not a Boston cream pie, but a Baltimore.
Lady Baltimore.
Yeah.
Ooh, what is
Yeah.
that?
Well, there's two Baltimores. There's a
Okay.
Lady Baltimore and a Lord Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
One is made with egg whites and one is made with egg yolks, right? And
Okay.
so I'm partial to the Lady Baltimore. I love that cake. And so it's like a sponge cake with orange. It's made with alcohols. It's made with raisins and nuts. It's very earthy. It's got whipped creams in the center. And so it's not like your typical buttercream laden
Yeah.
American cake.
Yeah.
I think it's English in origin. And then there's the Lord Baltimore, which is a little more rich, if you will, because it has the egg yolks and whatnot. And so I like
that sounds lovely.
I like an earthen cake, something. earthy.
I've noticed, because for the longest time, my favorite cake was carrot cake. I like a spiced cake.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah,
any
yeah.
type of banana bread, pumpkin bread, carrot cake.
If you will.
So with me, I am like a freaking sugar addict.
Oh, yeah,
like
girl.
it's so bad that I am seriously wanting to go to AA classes to figure out how
To do a 12-step program.
honey,
Yes.
honey, sugar is so bad. It's
so
I know,
bad.
girl. I know. I do know. I do know.
My
I
kids
know.
make like drug references, like
Sure.
mom's gonna go get her powder.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have found myself pretty deep in that hole before.
Yeah.
Like when I'm trying to think of an instance in which I was like, okay, you've got a fucking problem. Like aside from like a pixie stick, which is literally just flavored sugar,
yes.
Yeah.
which I will eat endlessly.
See, I'm baked
I'm bad.
goods.
I'm bad. I'm bad. I'm trying to find that balance. Really not. I don't adhere to that like keto type situation, but I do adhere to the less carbohydrates type situation.
Yeah.
Just to curb those insulin spikes.
Yeah.
And, even the alcohols that I drink, which is not very often, but when I do, it's got like a lower glycemic index just because if I fall down that rabbit hole, honey, I'm not getting out
Yeah.
for like until I'm like 200 pounds. Like, I'm going all the way.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to find that like,
Yeah.
there's got to be a life with a little sugar in it.
Yeah.
You know? It's
No,
so hard.
I work out so I can eat
Yes,
sugar.
ma'am. Yes.
That's the whole- yeah.
I'm going to run for my life. I need to be able to pick up 50 pounds of sugar.
Yes.
And I want to be able to eat it like, in any form.
I have never really had much of a sweet tooth. Like I'm more of
I know,
a
I hate
savory.
girls who say that. I hate
I
girls
know.
who say that.
Like I'm just more of a salty, savory person.
I'm that too.
But I will say,
I love it. And then I'm gonna switch it.
yeah. But I will say, as I get older, I crave the sweets a lot more.
There's a science behind it. And there's one, I think once you start looking into the science behind and the reasons why we choose to do certain things at certain times, a very large role mental health plays into. Very much so. And so when you start thinking about how I'm having something sweet, the only way I've been able to curb my thought processes in regards to when I'm just mindlessly eating it is one, I'm looking for something to change in my immediate present where I'm frustrated or I'm anxious or I'm worried or I'm bored.
Yes,
And I'm like, oop, this little serotonin or dopamine is just going to perk me right up. And it does.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful for that. And so I think that once I started looking at that, like, oh, okay, Nikki, change your setting, change your situation for a second,
Right.
Find
And then you won't
something
even
else
think
to
about
do.
it. Yeah.
That's it. And so I think that was the one thing that really started to play a role for me because I'm just the type that needs to really, really understand something fluidly before I'll pay any attention to it.
I
at all.
love that. That's so good because
yeah.
that's when I started realizing that, well, I've always known that I've had a problem.
Yeah, girl, I feel you. I feel you.
Whenever I like got to a certain age and started recognizing the second that I put that cupcake in my mouth, I immediately want the second one. I don't even care about the one I'm finishing.
Yeah, if we do.
Like,
get the whole
that's
cake.
a mental disorder right there.
Yeah, for sure. I feel you. I do. I do. I do.
I don't know.
Yeah, I do. Too. I don't know. There's that whole thought behind genetics and DNA that is present in your body was present in your ancestors' body, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. And so I think that we carry those generational traumas with us at a molecular level.
Yes.
Even if that's just eating a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now it's just more easily accessible to us. It's everywhere. That's the hard thing too. How do you say, I mean, I'm so grateful that I've never had to worry about, I mean, like I smoked cigarettes for a long time. I don't smoke anymore. That was a really hard one for me. And then one day I just didn't want it anymore. And so I like to think that sugar is going to play out the same way.
Yeah.
But we all have our demons. Mine just happens to be available at gas stations. And,
Right.
you know, everywhere.
I'm thankful
So-
to sugar and that addiction because I do have an addictive personality that I guarantee, like, I worry about being an alcoholic.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I see people with their addictions and I'm like, and it's so silly to, you know, base it off of that. But by the same token, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so grateful that mine isn't that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's something else entirely.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I feel for that very much.
Speaking of alcohol, we were going to talk about this.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that I was necessarily an alcoholic, but I do think that I had a problem with alcohol. Meaning, I feel like I was at a place in my life mentally for so long that it just, I was just in a rut, I think, really, and truly is what it comes down to. Like, that was my only way of coping.
Was it squelching boredom for you? Was it
Did you drink alone?
Yes.
Okay.
You did.
Yes.
Okay.
But what drove me to drink most of the time is there would be some issue that I was dealing with or that I had to deal with. Just like with cigarettes, I would do it whenever I was stressed out. So
Sure.
But it would obviously only be in the evenings. You know, I wouldn't drink during the day.
Right.
Very rarely, unless it was like a planned day drinking thing with like girlfriends or something.
Yes.
So I would just like wake up and drink. But Absolutely not. No, I don't know. And I know people who have gone through stuff like that, and it makes me, again, thankful that it never got that bad for me. But again, I do feel like I was depending on it for moments of stress.
Yeah.
And it got to a point to where I couldn't stop. Like, I wasn't drinking all day every day, but I knew I would be drinking that evening. And I knew I would probably be drinking the next day, or at least every other day, or, whatever that was. And that worried me. And there were times when Erica and I would talk about it, and she's like, you're kind of on the ledge here. Like, you might, whatever. And once that kind of talk was happening in my presence, I was like, shit. Like, this is something I really need to, like, recognize, because it could get to a point where I just wake up.
Was anybody in your family an alcoholic?
No, neither one of my parents drank. My grandparents weren't drinkers either. So but both of my parents were smokers. And so there is that addictive personality. But I don't know. It was like one day I quit alcohol and cigarettes at the same time. And it's been the easiest freaking thing for me. And I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah.
And so I even asked Blue, I was like, do you think that I was an alcoholic? And he's like, I don't know that I would put you at that level, but it could have, like, you were just steps away from it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, geez, man.
Way to have the emotional fortitude and the wherewithal to recognize it.
But it was almost like, I don't know what happened. I feel like, because there were times whenever I was happy and I was drinking, there were times whenever, but it was like, I just craved it. As soon as I got off work, I would go get a bottle of wine or, some ranch waters or whatever, and like just drink. Like, that's just what I was going to do. And I just knew that's what I was going to do. But it was like one day something in my brain changed to where I was like happy being sober. I would think about, man, what was it like to just watch a movie on a Friday night? Yeah. Like, I used to look forward to that as a kid. Like, I want to look forward to that again, and I don't even, it took no effort. I really don't know what happened, but it was just like one day I was like, nah.
See,
and so now when I think about smoking, not necessarily drinking, but when I think about smoking, I'm like, blah, nope.
Oh, me too. I feel you. And that for me was the only time in my life that I just didn't want it anymore. Yeah. And I still don't. I mean, like, there's times when I see a cigarette and I'm just like, the old me would have been like, hey, can I just have one of those? And then I would have gone to the store and bought a pack and smoked all of them all at once. And now I'm just like, I don't have the desire for that at all. At all.
And with drinking, though, like, sometimes I will say I did have some drinks a couple weeks ago. When was it? Like a month ago. I was just in a fight, and I was like, screw this person, because I'm just going to do this. I know they don't want me to, but that's why I'm going to do it, And it wasn't because I wanted to. And I had a drink, and I stopped myself because I was like, this is stupid. I know exactly why I'm doing this, and it's the wrong reason. And, you've gone so far, like, why screw it up now,
The only thing I'm better at than being a sugar addict is being stubborn. And so, like, last night, I was so mad at Jordan that this is ridiculous. I was so mad at Jordan over who knows what, and he had just gotten me 6 freaking cupcakes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he brought me breakfast in bed. He brought me coffee. There's some cupcakes, and this is just a freaking Monday night, and I'm the little bitch that was like, I don't want it.
Yeah. You son of a bitch. How dare you? Yeah.
But it was so funny.
Did you eat them the next day?
No, I hid them from myself this morning.
Oh, you go, girl.
Yeah. Because I wanted it to be at my kids' level. Sure. So the kids knew it was there, and
they would eat it.
I'm growing up, and you be sure and tell your dad that I didn't eat these cupcakes.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Make sure they know.
Yeah. So maybe.
Yeah, I think sugar is definitely one of those things that people can really, I mean, they have that TV show 600 Pound Life for a reason. Yeah. They have the show Intervention for the same reason.
No,
it's all about addiction.
It is.
And it's a mental, it's a just it's because something's not right up here. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong. And that doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It just means that this is what's happening right now in your life. And
that's how we're coping.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's so simple too. It's so funny how you try and find like deep reasons to why you are the way you are, the problems you have, the addictions you have. I truly remember my childhood. I was an only child, and I remember being bored a lot.
Yeah.
And my grandma always having sugar. So
there it is.
Yeah. That was
there.
it.
Yep.
I was with my grandma every single day.
Yeah.
I was pissed when I couldn't be with her. So,
Aw.
I mean, I can still, but
Yeah.
I didn't want
I
that to
get it.
end on a sad note.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I commend you though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
recognition,
so good.
and that is so difficult to look at oneself and not only recognize, but to make a game, like a plan of action.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
so this is not the person that I want to be. This is the better version of myself, and that's the person that I'm going to strive to be.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that trauma that we all work through, and I do think that those coping mechanisms all have to do with that trauma, whether it's being bored
yeah.
or being lonely or not having,
Yes.
it's a lack of, or, not
Yes.
being, the older we get, the more aware we become. And then it's like, oh my God, I have all these coping mechanisms. Which ones are actually healthy?
Right. Right. And it does. And I think a lot of it has to do with your environment and like, not just where you grew up in that type of environment, but also the environment that you're currently living in. Like if you have friends that drink a lot,
Right.
then that's a real easy way to just go into that. I could probably talk about this because she's fine talking about it, but I have a really close friend that I grew up with who a couple of years ago, she ended up going to rehab for alcoholism. And when we found out that she was going, we were shocked. Wow. Nobody knew except for her husband and her mom. And she was that good at hiding it. But she was like drinking during the day and hiding it. And like when she would wake up in the morning and there would be like empty, mini wine bottles in her car. And sometimes she would pass out at work and like,
Dang.
and we did not know, which
Yeah.
for one, I'm like a little pissed at myself. Like what signs did we miss? How did we not know that?
That comes from a loving place though.
Yeah. But yeah, like how did we not know? And why weren't we helping her? And like all these things just like, but hers just was like, she had a very demanding job. And what ended up happening is like a couple of people left the office that she was in. And so all of this work got put on her and she like couldn't handle it and didn't realize she couldn't handle it. So she just started drinking, to kind of release the stress. And before you knew it, like within a matter of months, she had gotten this bad. And it just like came out of nowhere. And she ended up going to rehab. And yeah, she's, like I said, she's fine to talk about it now, but she learned then, like, I'm not the kind of person that can just have a drink, And I think that was the other thing too, that I thought was weird about my situation is, Erica had talked to me about it. Blue told me, I think that you're on the verge and like all this stuff. But I kept telling myself like, no, I can have one drink and be done. I'm not that kind of alcoholic. I'm not that bad, And I could. Most of the time I didn't want to, but I could. And then I don't know. I guess also for me to be able to just have the one drink a couple of months ago and that was it, I'm like, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought, or maybe this is just a different type of, addiction. I mean, a different level of it.
Well, it's like the sugar. Like, I don't want to go my whole life without having another cupcake.
Right.
I don't want to
Amen,
go my whole life without having another cocktail.
Yeah.
And so I think it is all about the relationship. And
Yeah.
I am 100% on board with the people who are alcoholics and know that they cannot be that one drink person.
Yeah.
That's their relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You just got to cut it off.
Yeah.
And I think that's so good. And I commend people like I have so much respect for people who are sober because they were actual alcoholics.
I'm gonna level with you. I have a family history of it.
Me too.
And so I grew up with it, and I married it, and I dated it, and it wasn't until I guess so I looked at it different. My spectrum was different. Like, oh, are you really an alcoholic because, you're not as bad as this person. You're not up all night throwing up, or you're still going to work, so you're functioning.
Yeah.
Like, and so it all goes back to your
level. Yeah.
And your perspective.
Yeah.
And so I know now what it looks like. And I've seen people really turn their lives around when they stop. Like, oh my God, they're not even the same people. And so now I look at anyone with an addiction in that way. And I mean, I married someone that does not, we just don't have that. And so I think in the very beginning when we were first together, I'm not going to say it felt boring, but it felt foreign. Oh my God, like this person doesn't have a dependency problem with anything.
Yeah.
And so they don't need me to pick up their little messes or to, take up for them or for me to be like, oh, are you sure you should drive? Like,
right.
And so now I'm in I just see it differently. I'm in that like, oh my God, this is healthy and everybody's okay. And so I do think that there's a spectrum there too. And it's really hard to see it from one spectrum to another. You know what I'm saying? Like that sliding scale of, okay, do you have a problem or do you not have a problem?
Right. Right.
And so, I mean, the recognition I think is top notch.
And I will say this, a huge reason why I stopped altogether is because Blue is sober and he just can't be in a relationship with someone who's not sober. Like it's not like, oh, I can go off and do whatever I want with my girlfriends and it's fine. It's no, you're just sober. Like we have to live a sober life and we like all throughout our days and our nights and like for the rest of our lives, like that's just got to be it. And so I am on one hand doing this for him, but on another hand, it's a good thing that that's the case because I was getting to a dangerous place.
Yeah. I think when you love someone, you do things for that someone and it doesn't feel like work and it just is that natural progression, that evolution in a relationship. I said to my husband, it was just the other week, I was like, do you think we're drinking too much? Because like on Sunday afternoon, we would go to Torchy's and I'd have a couple of cocktails.
Oh man, Torchy's Paloma?
Oh yeah, girl, it's fine. So, yes.
What
and
kind
so
is
he's
that?
Like, no, I don't.
We're not going to talk about it, Jamie.
No. Too much of a good thing. And so he's like, no, I don't think that you're drinking too much. Yeah. But I am always so afraid that I'm going to step over a boundary and not realize that I'm stepping over it because of my perspective. Like, okay, well, I'm not this bad. So yeah, I will say that sugar it can get really out of hand for me. Thank God it's not heroin or crack or meth. I just never had the money for any of that. So, I've always got money for a candy bar though. Let me tell you what. So I don't know. We're all very fortunate in our...
Yes, so fortunate. Well, thanks so much for coming.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
I love and adore you, and I'm so proud of you.
I missed you.
I was very sad to have missed out
I knew you would
meeting and being with Niki in person. She is delightful.
I know.
So smart, so clever. It was so fun to listen to her and her views on life. And then it was like, oh, and also she bakes really great things. Yeah. Like, that's incredible. Yeah. Like, what a neat person. A heck of an interview. I loved how funny she was. She seemed real naturally funny.
Yep. I had to explain to Willem what camel toe was. Because she overheard that part.
How lucky for you.
Yeah. Don't you hate when you go to mute the radio when you know a cuss word is coming up and you mute it too late?
Missed it.
So she's like, I heard that. What is that? That's something I've never heard. So I had to tell her what that was.
That's fun.
But I loved that. It's thick girl summer.
See, I'm here for that. Let's go.
Yet I will not get in a swimsuit. I will not. But yeah, no, I loved everything she had to say. And I feel like she really had some actual insight about, everybody makes fun of me when I say I have a sugar addiction. I'm not kidding.
I believe it.
It takes hold of me.
I was intrigued by the addiction conversation. I feel like an addictive personality can render itself in many aspects.
Yes.
Not just drugs and alcohol or smoking even. When I was working at a nonprofit, they had a recovery program, and the amount of sugar that they would go through was insane because they, you
'cause
know,
they
people
needed something
naturally, they naturally replace one addiction for another.
Like how alcoholics go to cigarettes.
Exactly.
Even. Yeah.
Exactly. I guess it gateways one way or another. And that was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry about your sugar situation.
I know. I really do consider going to these recovery programs for that.
Sure.
But yeah, and then I already don't sleep. I don't sleep at all almost. And so I am very curious on if I did cut out sugar. I don't want to cut out it completely, but I am interested to see if I sleep better.
Sure. Getting a little bit older every day, I'm realizing 3 o'clock is my cutoff.
For sugar?
Even sooner. Yeah.
And coffee? Do you drink coffee?
I'll catch myself reaching for an energy drink or something in the afternoon. The afternoon pickup, you know, pick me up is trouble.
Yes.
And sure enough, if I have it 3:37, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
It's not gonna go well.
I get it.
I was also really intrigued by the topic of you are who you hang out with, and I also loved how that lady spoke into her about like, well, yeah, you're a hardworking woman, so there's all these independent, strong women around you.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
I love that. Like, that's so beautiful, and I will now be really looking at all the people around me.
Yeah, definitely be mindful.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. And like I was telling you earlier, I went to my grandpa's 80th birthday, and that family is just, they are so supportive and so interested and invested in what we're up to. Not just
Genuine.
us, but everybody in our
That's
family. And his name is Jimmy Fields, and he is seriously, he's like my favorite man on earth. But it's just so important who you're hanging around, and to pay attention and to have the awareness. Like I tell the kids, I am having so much fun with Jamie and Alicia. Please, please, please take note of how your friends are making you feel.
That's
because
a big deal.
Just know that you can look for people who are really contributing positive energy to your life, because it is a short life.
I mean, that is good advice for all age
Yes.
friendships. Like,
Definitely.
you know, it's okay, like you're saying, to have people that come in and out of your life that may need more at times than others, but definitely that core has to give you life. Otherwise, what's the point? But it's not always easy to find, and I'm definitely thankful for the circle that I found myself in. It's pretty special.
Definitely.
And you're there, so I'm glad that happened.
Thanks. I'm in the circle. We should go to scratch.
I'm good with that. I still work.